You need to know that I'm a riot. Tonight we gonna set the streets on fire. All I need is a gas.
Right guys, we're back with another box mod building review. We have started today with a 1590B Hammond box with all the extras and bits and bobs. We are going to be upgrading the fruit of the parts. So for a start we have the 1590B box in red. Hopefully you can see that, guys. Obviously we have I've upgraded the on-off switch. We have the MOSFETs and magnets, which I've got more of because the company only supplied 8, which are all slightly bigger than normal. One Keystone battery sled for 18650s, a 510, a momentary switch. We have a 15k resistor here for your MOSFET, and obviously the little bag of screws that come with. Again, obviously you are going to need some essential tools. Obviously I always have these, which always is essential because again, if you're building it for somebody else, they need to know what polarity is going where. Good tools to have is good decent metal drill bits, stepper drills, countersinks, some little screwdrivers to move stuff around, a good scalpel, and a pair of pliers. Again, always make sure that you have some soldering flux, always make sure you have decent solder, and again, another essential is obviously shrink tubing of all different sizes. And obviously always make sure that you have decent wire as well, guys. I have copious amounts of different wires. I have like 18, 20, 22 gauge, 24, 16, 14 gauge. Always make sure that you're using the proper gauge wire and make sure it's decent wire as well, please. Again, because that is essential. Always make sure you've got decent wire, because again, the connections and everything are up to you guys. Again, if you don't make a good connection, then you're not going to get a good hit off your box mod. So always make sure that you're using good solder, good flux, good wire, and make sure that those solder connections are really good, guys. We're going to jump down. I'm going to do a little bit of work and then come back, take a few photos and carry on with the video, guys. Right guys, for the next part of the video I'm going to move everything aside because we're not going to be using it for a moment. What I am going to do is I'm just going to mark out all of the parts for the box. So I'm just going to take a couple of screws out of the box because for this one I am going to do something slightly different. So I'm just going to put a couple of screws in the box quickly. When I can pick the screw up, that is. Obviously this is why I always say you need a screwdriver to hand. Let's just get a couple of the screws in place just to hold the door on, just while we make some markings. Just keeps everything in place, nice and neat, ready to do some markings. Always make sure you've got decent pen or marker, which I am not missing. Again, to make this nice and easy, all I do is I just mark up roughly from one side of the box to the other. Don't know whether you can see that. So literally just a rough mark, gauge it from side to side, from corner to corner, and I just put a little mark, just like so. Then obviously go from the other side to the other corner, and again just another little line, and there we go, roughly the centre. Obviously you will have a little bit of wiggle room when you actually put the hole in. What I normally then do is for the next one is I gauge roughly where the top of the box is, and I put a little dot. Then we work out how big the button is, which is a 16mm button. So we go down 16mm, which is about there. And then what we do is we work it out from across the board. Normally what I will do is this mark will come off just with a little bit of nail varnish remover, or just a good little bit of cleaner. Again, it's on a nice polished surface, so it does come off quite easily. So that middle section will be exactly where we put the 510, and the fire switch. Right guys, so I'm just going to go hammer the centre pin holes. Obviously always use a centre punch and a hammer. Always be careful not to twat your fingers, because you twat your fingers and that's going to hurt like hell. So I'm just going to go drill these and then I will be back with you guys, okay? Right guys, so I have pre-drilled the pilot holes and I've also taken off the black mark from the fire button. Off the top there, I've not taken the mark off because obviously when I use the stepper drill and I go through the top there, that is all going to come off there because the hole for the top is 12mm. So I'm now going to go ahead, pre-drill all the holes, ready to accept the fire switch and the 510. So again, I'll be back in a momento, and then you will see that the box mod is nearly prepared, ready for the internals. Right guys, so this is now ready to accept the 510 and the fire switch. So I'm just going to take these screws out. And I'm just going to clean all the swarf out of there. And just give it a quick brush down with the brush. Just to get all the extra debris out of the way. So obviously there is your door, and here is the box. So it's a Hammond 1590B, as I said before. Obviously 16mm hole for the fire switch, 12mm hole for the 510. So I'm just going to go ahead and install these in there just so everybody can see what they look like and what the box mod is sort of going to look like in the end. Let's just move that switch around a little bit. I'm just fitting the screws in, guys, or the bolts in, the nuts in to go into onto the 510. Just trying to get it screwed up. It can be a little bit fiddly the first instant of trying to get them to thread, but it doesn't take long before they go on. It's just a little bit fiddly, that's all. Other than that, they're not too bad. That's just a rough idea of what it will look like when it's all together. So your 510, let's get into kind of the internals of how it will sit. Again, obviously down here will be your fire switch, your on-off switch and your MOSFET. All the wires will route up through the back, and that's what it will kind of look like. So, with the door on, just a nice looking little box mod. Right, so I'm just going to go do a little bit more work off camera, because we have to modify this sled a little bit. The little lugs on the side here, I don't know whether you can see, they have to come off because it's not as easy for those to be on there. I need to cut down the contacts as well. Luckily on the back here there's no indentations or anything on the back there, which makes it a lot easier. But I am just going to go cut these tabs off and just make sure that that's all smooth. Right guys, so I have now modified the battery sled. So as you can see, there are no tabs on the side anymore, so they have been clean shaven. I just snapped them off and used the scalpel just to clean the edges up and just scrape them off. I've also cut off of the tabs off the bottom. Obviously you're using a metal case. Obviously if those metal tabs are touching your metal case, you're going to end up getting a short, which is never a good idea, especially running a series box mod. So always make sure that you cut all 4 tabs off the bottoms of these and leave them at least halfway up the battery sled, just to make sure there is no connection inside of your box. Okay guys, some battery sleds you'll get, they will have little dimples on the back edge of these. Again, it just depends what battery sled you get. Always make sure you cut those off and make sure that they're flush, because if you don't, obviously it's going to sit and wobble inside your box mod, so you'll never get it to sit flush. So that's always a good tip guys. Right guys, as I said, I'm doing something different on this box mod, something I've never done before. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to glue these screws into the top casing, obviously the lid of the box mod, and I'm going to put magnets inside the box mod door, so obviously they clip together using these, but on the outside it's going to look as if the box has been screwed together. So again, it will look like that from the outside, but it will just give it that little bit of an industrial look. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue those in with 2-part epoxy. I just use this one. So I'm now going to go glue those in the door and make sure that they're ready to go. Right guys, so I've now glued the screws into the door, which I'm now going to leave overnight to make sure that they are cured and dried correctly. So I'm going to sit them to the side and leave them for 24 hours or so. So the rest of this glue is now wasted, but after it's dry it will just peel off the top there, which is awesome. So I'm going to get down, I'm going to do a little bit more work on the inside of this with some of the wiring, which means obviously I've now got to set up my soldering iron. So I will be back in a memento and show you some of the other stuff that we've got. So we are back and we are going to be starting to do the pre-wiring for obviously the battery sled, the 510, the fire switch, the on-off switch, the negative to the 510, and for the MOSFET. So I am going to just do a bit of work off camera just to start getting it ready, again because it does need some work doing to it. Just to obviously pre-tin everything, just to make sure that obviously everything is going to go the way I need it to. Again guys, obviously make sure that you're using decent wire, decent solder. I will show you the up close and personal of what I'm going to be using, so back in a minute. Right guys, I am going to be using 18 and 22 gauge silicone rubber, 600 volt, 200 degrees Celsius wire. I just find it's the best, it's more flexible, it's easier to use, and I get a lot better solder connections for these as well. You can use cheaper wire, but I find it's not as good guys. So again, it's personal preference, but that's why I find that's a lot easier to use. So guys, if you're using series, you're going to be using a 15k resistor in line with your MOSFET. Again, this is so you can use any switch, so it doesn't have to be like a 30 or 60 amp switch. So obviously it's going to be semi-regulated with this, just because obviously you're using the MOSFET. So I'm just going to go ahead, get this soldered onto here, and start doing some of the prep work for the wiring. Alright guys, so I pre-tin everything that I do, and again I always use flux paste. As you can see, I have trimmed down 2 of the legs. One is a little bit uneven there. That is just to give me enough space to obviously be able to solder this one on, because obviously this is a slightly thicker wire guys. So again, just make sure that obviously you pre-tin and put a good solder connection on everything. Right guys, so this is now pre-wired. Again, safety first, so always make sure that you have heat shrink on there. I also use a slightly larger one to go over the top of the whole MOSFET, so obviously this doesn't arc out or spark against your casing. Always a good tip, and always use heat shrink for every connection if possible, just for safety's side, okay? Okay, so I have just pre-soldered on to the battery sled. Obviously I'm running this series, so the positive and the negative on the bottom connect to each other. From the top here, obviously you'll have your negative connections, your positive connections, whichever way around you want to do it. It's up to you. But it's starting to look really, really good. Obviously we've now got to wire up the on-off switch. We've also got to wire up the negative to the 510 and then start sorting out the fire switch. But she is nearly done, nearly ready to go. Right guys, obviously I have marked in the box where the MOSFET is going to sit, and I have started trimming all the wires for the MOSFET. So when that sits in there, you've got one wire that will go to the negative on the battery sled. You've got one to go to the negative on the 510, and then you have got a positive one that will go on to the on-off switch. So they're all pre-cut. What I'm going to do now is sit and pre-tin them, ready to actually be soldered onto the other end connections for the other parts, like the on-off switch, the 510 and the battery sled. Right guys, so this is most of the internals done for the series, or Dual 18650 series. Obviously you have got your gate pin from your MOSFET that will go to your on-off switch, and then one will go to your fire switch. Then you have got your drain, or D. So that's your gate pin, your drain and your source pin. The source will go to the negative on the battery sled, and obviously your drain will go to your negative on your 510. Alright guys, I haven't shown you any of the soldering that obviously I've been doing, because if you are looking into building your own box mod, then you should already have a basic knowledge of possibly electrical work, Ohm's law, battery safety and the ability to solder. If you don't know how to solder, then I would certainly say practice soldering first, but not on a box mod. Just get yourself an old piece of wire, things like that, and try on something before you even try and do something like this. So this is the box mod almost complete. Obviously I still haven't heat shrunk my MOSFET. I haven't heat shrunk my on-off switch. I only heat shrink the on-off switch just because I think it makes it look a little bit better, a little bit cleaner. Obviously I will take a photo or even do a video of this working and the finished product. I won't be able to show you with the door on, not at the moment, just because obviously I'm still waiting for that to dry so I can finish that one off. But always make sure you use heat shrink and make sure it is safe. Please don't let this short out anywhere. Again, that could be disastrous, guys. So I'm just going to finish this off with my heat shrink. I never ever use my soldering iron. I only ever use a hairdryer. I think I get better results from it. Everybody is different. Again, everything I have done in this video, guys, is subjective. Not everybody will agree with me. And again, not everybody will do it the same way that I do. Again, this is just the way that I do these box mods. Everybody else will do it slightly different. So just keep that in mind, please, guys. Right, so I'm just going to finish off, get this all heat shrunk up, and then I'll be back with you and hopefully it'll be working. Right guys, so I've gone and heat shrunk everything. Obviously this is your MOSFET. I always, as it's still warm, just nip the top of that up, just so then obviously it doesn't spark out on anything. I do also wrap obviously the on off switch. What I will do is I'll go ahead once this has cooled down a little bit and just trim that top edge off, just so then obviously the button will work exactly the way that it's meant to. I'm just going to go ahead, start fixing this all down and installing the fire switch. But this is nearly a ready and working mod, guys. Guys, it's all cleaned up. All the insides are now either heat shrinked, all soldered up, ready to go. Obviously I am going to put stickers in here to tell you which way the polarities go, but this is the negative at the moment. So I'm going to clip them in there. They're going to be nice and strong for the moment, and then this one's the positive. So we have a working series dual 18650 box mod, and you can see there is the kill switch, so there is no power, and as you can see she fires up and works absolutely lovely. Nice thick dense clouds. So that is your box mod fully up and running nice and easily without too many complications. They are easy to do. Obviously if you do one of these, then please spend your time, do a bit of research and make sure that you get decent kit to make these with. If you don't understand what you're doing, please don't do it. It is not the most sensible idea. I've been building these for a little while now. I think this is probably my 15th to 20th one. I've built a fair few, but they're just good fun. Hopefully this video has been helpful. Any comments, anything that any questions, feel free to ask. Again, you can comment down below. I will put a link to where most of this stuff is bought. Most of it is modmaker.com, or you have Stealth Vapes. There's a few bits probably come off eBay, things like that as well. So again guys, keep it cloudy, keep it IVC, and I will post a couple of pictures right at the end of this video of everything glued in and everything in its place with the door fitted as well, so then you'll see the whole finished product. But there you go, 18650 dual series box mod. Take it easy guys, keep it cloudy, keep it IVC. Alright guys, so this is the mod all cleaned up, all glued in place. If my camera will focus. I probably will take some still shots of this. So obviously I've used hot glue just to glue everything in, just to tidy it up and make sure that everything is safe and not shorting out anywhere. But obviously you have seen it working already guys, but nice and clean on the inside.